Good morning, Bob Guinan. How are you? Karen, good morning. Great to hear from you. So glad you're checking in. I hope you're well. Is everybody this morning? It is. Good morning, John. Hope you're doing all right. Yvette, good morning. Everybody is good. Hi, Amy. Good to see you. Things are good with you. It's a good day. We're getting ready to. Just had Bible study this morning. We're getting ready to. Been reading Book of James, powerful stuff, and we're getting ready to. We're going to go flyer our neighborhood here in a little bit. We're having our organ concert, and which is our Christmas organ concert. We do one every month, but this one is going to be Christmas themed and the chance to sing carols and stuff like that. So we're going to go make some invitations to our neighbors with some flyers and the like. So looking forward to that. Good morning. Hey, Vicky. Good morning to you. Nice, out in the yard this morning. Beautiful. That's great. It is a beautiful spot. So, wrapping gifts, letting Joe rest. Oh gosh, poor, poor honey. So she's not feeling well. So, good morning, everybody. All right, let's get going this morning. It is. Good morning, everyone. It is the 15th day. It is with the middle of December, gang. It is the 15th day of December on this Wednesday at 11:11, and I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're part of the journey. I say it every day that we meet, and I mean it every day that we meet. That your presence here matters. It matters to me, and it matters to those, even if you never kind of say hello. The fact that you're a part of this journey, you are cared for and you are prayed for. So I want to read a story this morning because it's one of these that I think we can use. So this is Jesus, um, one of the healings of Jesus, and so there's all kinds of healings. Like there's all of these little moments in which Jesus says, he showed up and he healed a bunch of people, and he showed up and healings occurred, or the disciples went and healed a bunch of people. But there are certain healings that get recorded in the Gospels about certain things that happen there, and they're recorded and they're in it because of the fact that they have something to offer us. They're not just these one-off moments, but and so I want you to hear this story. This is Jesus and the boy with the unclean spirit. So you can tuck yourself in and story time and hear this story from Mark 9 if you want to look it up. And when they came to the disciples, this is Jesus was walking along, so the disciples have gone ahead of him, and so he's rolling up afterwards, kind of like like people in charge will, like they'll send their advance party in and they'll kind of come along, and so the disciples had gone ahead of them, and so he says, and so now Jesus is arriving, and and when they came to the disciples, they saw a great crowd around them and the scribes arguing with them. And immediately all the crowd, when they saw him, were greatly amazed and ran up to him and greeted him. They've been waiting for him. And the scribes and the disciples, notice they're fighting it out. Yeah. And he asked them, "What are you arguing about?" So the scribes, these are the guys that that work in the temple. They are the priests and the folks that are there in Jerusalem already, not disciples of Jesus. "What are you arguing about with them?" And someone from the crowd answered, "Teacher, I brought my son to you, for he has a spirit that makes him mute, and whenever it seizes him, it throws him down, and he foams and grinds his teeth and becomes rigid. And so I asked your disciples to cast it out, but they were not able." And he answered them, "Ah, faithless generation, how long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear you? Bring him to me." And they brought the boy to him. And when the spirit saw him, immediately it convulsed the boy. And he fell on the ground and rolled about, foaming at the mouth. And Jesus asked his father, "How long has he been like this?" And he said, "From childhood." And it would often cast him into a fire or into water and to destroy him. "But if you can do anything, have some compassion on us and help us." And Jesus said to him, "If you can, all things are possible with one who believes." And immediately the father of the child cried out, "I believe, help my unbelief." And when Jesus saw that, a crowd came running together, and he rebuked the unclean spirit, saying, "You mute and deaf spirit, I command you, come out of him and never enter him again." And after crying out and convulsing him terribly, it came out, and the boy was like a dead man. So that most of them there said, "He is dead." But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he arose. And when he had entered the house, his disciples asked him privately, "Why could we not cast it out?" And he said to them, "This kind cannot be driven out by anything but prayer." I love this story, and I think because it offers us a look at what failure in our spiritual life can look like. That, remember, the disciples are now, they're not only have they been asked to do a task, heal the boy, but in it they're unable to do it. And as in the middle of their failure, they start getting sharp shot. They start getting nitpicked by the other people who can't, by the way, cast out the spirit either. They can't cast out. They can't heal the boy, but they're fighting now with the disciples. So the disciples and the scribes are fighting. There's a whole big mess here, and this is what Jesus walks up into. This ostensibly the failure of the disciples. Like they screw it up. They can't get it. They can't get the job done. But it's not just the disciples. There's everyone here. The scribes, they can't do it either. By the way, the scribes were known for being healers. They were known for going out and doing healers, casting out demons now and again. That this was the thing that they did. It was not restricted to the disciples. So they can't. But this one's too gnarly for them too. They can't seem to get any purchase on it. And Jesus rolls up, and he doesn't even have the nicest things to say. He says, "Faithless generation, how long am I going to have to put up with this? How long am I going to have to put up with you people? Like, how long do I have to put up and bear this?" And then invites him to be brought to him. And the father, again, can't do anything with it. The father loves him more than anything, believes in the desire for his son's healing, can't fix him. Can't fix him. He's stuck too. And in fact, even at the very forefront of this, Jesus says, "Can I?" This is Jesus being sarcastic. If you can, like, what are you talking about? If you can, of course I can. All things are possible for one who believes. And so the father, exasperated at this point, says, "Help my unbelief. I believe, help my unbelief." This meager, stumbling towards God, stumbling towards Jesus. And, all the people gather around. And again, and even another failure. Like he's cast out, but what happens? He looks like he's dead. Even from outward appearances, this was not the desired outcome. But it's only as all these people are saying, "Oh, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead." Killed him, killed him. That Jesus takes him by the hand and rises him up, and is healed. This is a long succession of failures, or at least perceived failures. There's nothing in this text that's like, and then it was great, like, until the very, very, very end. Everybody in this thing, the crowd, the Father, the disciples, the scribes, all of them are failing in one way or another. This entire encounter is littered with failures and littered with the inability to keep it together, to get wholeness and healing for this boy in the midst of this unclean spirit. I think in our spiritual life, and we see this, I think, again and again, as the evidence of our spiritual life, of our life with God. I mean, it's even, we even find it in popular culture, or even, wider wisdom. Winston Churchill said that the key to success in life is moving from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. And I love that, because the word enthusiasm is enthusiasm, which is the word for God. So God within us, that without losing God within us, to keep moving from failure to failure. That the entire biblical project, the entire Christ project, the entire Jesus project, is not about us getting everything right in our lives. In fact, it's about getting most things wrong. It's about the falling down again and again and again. It's about everybody, again, in this story is a failure. Everybody can't get done what they seek to accomplish. Well, that's not very cheery, is it? Of course, except Jesus, who throughout it is this backstop of trust. Because what really has a problem here, what really comes undone, is this trust in the order of things, this trust in the fact that God has it, this trust in the omniscience and the omnipresence of God, if you want to use big fancy words. This trust that we can lean into God's love for us. We can lean into the fact that God has got this, no matter what chaos is happening in our life, no matter what brutality is going on, that even within all of the wider sphere, God's got it. And that when we do that, we become like the boy's father a little bit. I believe, help my disbelief. This great line, this famous line, where I believe, help my disbelief. That it's this invitation to trust, help me trust more. I trust, I believe, I trust, I will trust God, but help me to trust more. Let me fall into trusting more. Because here's what happens. If we're not trusting God, there's only one other person to trust. It's ourselves. Or maybe we can try and trust the world or some other people, but they'll screw you over. Let's be clear. Even if they don't want to, even if we discover this as parents, right? Even as much as we want to meet every one of our child's needs, we horribly can't. We come horribly short, because we occasionally need a sandwich and a nap. We occasionally need to attend to our own things. We can't be omnipresent and caring for them. We can't. They have to have their own experience. They're on their own track. In all of this, that even with the people, the little creatures that we would love the very most and want to care for the very most, we still can't quite get it all right. We can't. We still fall down in it. So we can, no matter what we're leaning into, if we're trusting in, the scribes and having the right answer, or the disciples and just kind of knowing the right thing, or the crowd and you kind of being at the right place at the right time. They're always running around following Jesus, or it doesn't matter what we're trusting in, or the Father even just just seeking to have his boy healed and leaning into that and saying, I trust you, Jesus, but I help the part of me that doesn't trust. That is the invitation for each one of us. Because when Jesus answers the disciples, he goes on to answer the disciples. He says, what kind of thing that can be driven out? This is the only one of these can be driven out with prayer. Well, the disciples prayed. They could certainly pray. They certainly had access to the divine. But what was it different? That it wasn't about this trusting in their own abilities, trusting in themselves, trusting in what they could bring. It was this deepening and trusting in prayer, which is this bringing it back and trusting in God. I mean, these are really the two poles and the two parts. That when we and that the anxiety in our life and the despair in our life and the pain in our life, the real suffering, that's not pain's not it. We're always going to have pain. Pain's always around. But the suffering of our life, the places where we really are grinding ourselves down, or maybe we've fallen down, and the guilt and the shame that we feel from our falling down, that's a result of us not trusting in God, but trusting in ourselves. And when we end up in this trusting in ourselves place, we end up, and that's not to say we're not going to fall down. Again, don't hear me say what I'm not saying. That I'm not suggesting we're going to live lives of perfection in thought, word, and deed. Not at all. We're still going to muck it up. But the invitation is that in our failing is that we fail. We believe, and we still can't heal the boy. We still can't heal the thing that we love the most in the whole wide world. We still can't get it right. We believe, help our unbelief. We trust, and then we trust more. And that in the trusting more, there are things that end up getting unlocked. There is access to the divine. There's access in prayer. This is why Jesus says prayer, because this is really this is really the Father's prayer. Just help me unlock more trust in God that I don't have. I don't have all the trust in God. I'm a mess some days. I know you are too. Some days we don't always have all the trust, but it's this willingness to ask for and lean into more trust in God again and again and again in our failures, in the places where we are really not getting it right, allows us to fail well, allows us to step further, and that in that there isn't the shame and the grief and the pain and the depression and the ruminating kind of stuff we do, kind of just grinding ourselves to dust about whatever horrible thing we might have done at one point or another. There's none of that. There's only actually a further more life. Because this is what happens. The boy is healed. That there's more life in it. There's more life that comes from us deepening our trust, from even just starting with the trust that we have, even if it's sketchy and low, starting with the conversation that we have with God, even if it's very base and simple, starting with that and asking for more. It's this invitation to trust and to trust deeper. And this invitation to trust and to trust more is our way out of these anxieties of life. We're not gonna get it all right. You're not gonna get it all right, and that doesn't mean we need to abandon the endeavor. Quite the opposite. We have in life before us a sick child. We have before us a part of life that is sometimes it's trying to kill us. Sometimes it's overtaking us. Sometimes we have before us a world that needs attending to, both our own lives and in the wider world. We're not going to abandon that. We're not just say, good luck. And but our arguing and trying to figure out what the right answer is, or in our questioning of our authority to do so, that happens in the arguing of the scribes and the disciples, or our just trying to get at the right place at the right time kind of part of the crowd. None of it. It's about our leaning into trust in God and trusting more in God. This trusting that the Lord has us and has it and that in it the world can be healed, even if we don't know how to know that. Even if we don't know how to know it, we can ask to know it. We can ask to trust it. We can ask to discover it. We can ask for more and deeper and wider and weighty trust in God than we have. And it's this trusting on top of trusting. That's the unfolding path. Because the other path is exactly what you see in this text. It is nothing but death and sickness and arguing and pain. And it leads us, because it's all about trusting in ourselves. It's all about trusting in our own authority. It's all about trusting in our own position. It's all about trusting in our own being at the right place in the right time, and our own capabilities of getting it done. And they'll always let us down. And that's not that we shouldn't work and we shouldn't work hard. Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. It's only then, but it is out of this notion of who do we trust to actually heal our lives? Can you read enough self-help books? Can you read enough of Oprah and figure out what the best way to encounter your childhood grief? Can you have enough have enough drinks to make sure it all goes away? Can you, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. However, we're trying to solve our own problems. We're not the person with the answers to our problems. But we're also and that doesn't mean that if we don't, there isn't access. It means that we're invited to believe, and then, Lord, help my unbelief. Lord, open up in me and that act, that act is the healing act. That act is the thing that brings us, that act of engaging in prayer is the thing that opens in us more trust. Our desiring for more trust opens in us more trust. That's the gift from God. And that in that is, more peace, more innocence, more joy, more wonder, more beauty, all the things that we want, that we would hope for in a rich life, in a life filled with failure, and that has failed well. So my hope for you today is that you'll fail, and you'll fail well. That you'll have rather than beating yourself up about all the things you didn't do, or you did do, rather than hold yourself horribly accountable. Not to say we don't have responsibility for things, but to say that to hold yourself accountable, that you're the one with the answer to this problem. Rather than any of that, Lord, I believe. Help my unbelief. Lord, as the great prayer of mercy of the Orthodox Church goes, Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. That's the prayer from the cross, of the thief from the cross. And that it's the underlying prayer of this story, that I believe, help my unbelief. Take what little faith, take what little trust, take what little ability that you feel like you can muster to lean into trust in God. Take that and trust, and then ask for more. Because God will not abandon you. Christ will not leave you hanging. Christ will, in fact, take those places where you couldn't hear the right things, the deaf places in life, or that you could not articulate the truth of your life, those mute places in your life, and give life to them. Now, it might not happen right away, it might not happen quick, and it might not even look like life. It might even look like death. But in the end, Jesus will take you by the hand and lift you up, and you will rise and rise again and rise again in the love of Christ Jesus. All right, friends, that's my hope for you today. I hope you have a great day, and I hope there is beauty in it. and all of this. We are getting ready for our concert on Friday at noon. We'll have our Christmas concert here. So if you're in the area, do come by. We're going to sing some Christmas carols. It's going to be a great day. And we have a fourth Sunday of Advent coming up on Sunday, the Sunday of Peace. So good morning. Donna's here. Her surgery was canceled, so please keep her in your prayers. That between place of getting between knowing what has to happen and then having it happen, it's awful. Also, we're gonna keep praying for you, Donna. Jamie, good morning to you. Glad you're here. Sherry, glad you made it too. So good to see everyone. Peace and grace to you all. We'll pick it up tomorrow with another 11:11.